He grew up in Tampa. I obviously was not around from that portion of his life, but I did spend time with my grandmother, Grandma B, in Tampa. We went down there from Tallahassee occasionally and spent some time with her. And he did maintain ties with the family in Tampa, but he was in Fort Lauderdale. After Tampa, I guess the next big thing would have been attending Florida A&M, got a bachelor's there, and time in the Army during World War II. And I think probably that experience had some effect on how he decided to direct the rest of his life. Obviously there were experiences that we've all heard about, how black soldiers were treated in Europe versus how they were treated here, and he had to come back here. When he came back, he wanted to continue his education, but he went to Howard University in Washington, D.C. because he couldn't go to school in Florida. And I have a vague recollection of someone telling me that the state of Florida actually funded that to keep him out of school. They sent him to D.C. instead. And I think, obviously, the same thing that propelled many of the people that you'll be honoring propelled him, which was the disparity between what was, what should be, and in the minds of the people that you'll be honoring, because they are such pioneers and have so many firsts among them, their thought that one should expand the scope of what could be, redefining the possible by doing things that hadn't been done before, by pursuing trails that hadn't been followed before. And he did that in the judicial sphere. Others went other directions. He was also very active in the community. One of the things I remember most about what he did here in Fort Lauderdale, at least our northwest side of Fort Lauderdale, was the music scene. He was very, very instrumental in keeping the jazz idiom alive and well in Fort Lauderdale. I got to hang out with him at the Elks Club, hang out with Count Basie and some of the other guys that came down, and the Elks Club was the place to go for live music. And some well-known people came through, Cannonball Alley, who hung out with local people all the time. So there was the judicial part, the political part, and the community part as well. The things that affected him, perhaps the community most, were a few of the cases that he did before I was really aware of a lot of things. The turnpike desegregation was a really big deal on the northwest side. I view that as much political as judicial. He started that part of his life, the public side, I think in '63 was the first time he ran for office. I had just gotten my driver's license and I was shuttling people to the polls that day. He didn't win. He was later appointed a judge, and I think he was on the bench for about 10 years. And during that period, he served in various areas of the court, criminal, civil, juvenile, and went back and forth. That was, I think, toward the end, a source of some frustration for him because he felt that he had been on the court long enough or proved himself enough that he wouldn't be the utility guy, that he would land in one of the areas he preferred as opposed to where they wanted to put him. Funny? Not really, no. He was very social, not a jokester, but social settings, parties, large events, that he liked that. Most of the contacts we had revolved around music. He was appointed public defender after his unsuccessful run for the city commission. He had worked on a lot of cases in the courthouse and was well known, and was appointed a public defender. and stayed in that office until the election of a Republican public defender. And he took everybody who was a Democrat and pushed them out to replace them with his own people. And it was sometime after that he was appointed judge. His relationship with the judiciary in the county and some of the disputes he had, they were significant, and I think they had an effect on where his career went and how it went, but he kept pushing. Naturally, being at the forefront of changes, he had a lot of disappointments. He was considered for, but not appointed as, or nominated as an ambassador to Barbados by Jimmy Carter. None of those things came to fruition, and clearly that affects anyone. And I think as I grew older and encountered some of the same sorts of hurdles, I came to appreciate what he went through more.